Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. A lot going on in the world, everybody. We will be your 2-hour release today to talk about our Philadelphia Eagles, the NFL trade deadline, a whole lot going on in the NFL world and the Philadelphia Eagles world, as there always is. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
The sun came up, so
I love that line.
If you're unhappy, it'll be fine. If you're happy, it'll be fine. You'll be fine. Sun came up. Wingnut season is over, but it's never really over, as I said. But at least no more political calls and political texts. So if everybody wants a silver lining, at least you don't have to deal with that bull, what, anymore. So look at the bright side.
So the political conversation, which we will not have, is proof, though, that Mr. John McMullen is even-keeled all the way throughout. It's the first thing he said to me this morning. The sun came up. I said, that's classic Johnny Mac right there, and I love it.
Well, South Park is always – I think South Park is tremendous for people who aren't fans, for people who are fans, because they're usually about 5 years ahead of everything.
They really are.
And they do so much brilliant satire. And years ago, they did an election show where, half the town was split and everybody was partying when their candidate won, and everybody was huddling in the garage expecting the end of the world when their candidate lost. It's they're about 5 years ahead of the game, really 10 years typically. But again, look for the silver lining. No more political calls, political texts. So everybody can get on board. That's one thing we could all agree on, right?
I would hope so. I think there's something I think there's plenty of things that we can all be united on a country that maybe
there should be. There should be.
But that's certainly one I think we can all get behind. No more ads, no more texts, no more calls, no more this. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. Great takeaway. We will not bog you down with some of the political talk. We will be your release today. John, the trade deadline, it came and it went yesterday, the 4 p.m. deadline. The Eagles did not make a move. Now, I will say first, I had no problem with them not making a move, but a couple other NFC teams did make a move. Really, the teams that I think could be competing with the Eagles late in the year, and the Commanders make a move for Marshawn Lattimore, and the Lions also made a move, adding Zadarius Smith. What you kind of make of how the deadline went yesterday? All the teams that made moves, the Eagles standing pat. What were your takeaways from the trade deadline yesterday?
Well, from the Eagles' perspective, I mentioned I didn't think they needed much. I think the depth has gotten better with the return of Sidney Brown and the improvement of some certain players. So if something came across Howie Roseman's desk, he'd do it. You're always looking to get incrementally better, but right. I didn't see any splash moves out there. The one position is edge rusher, and that becomes more difficult because you almost have to do two moves, because that means that somebody's got to leave. And we talked about a little bit about Bryce Huff, but that was unrealistic, and obviously it didn't happen. And they stand pat, which is not typical of Howie, and I get, because those are two big name players, and people love big name players going to teams ahead of the Eagles right now in the standings in the NFC. So it seems like maybe they've gotten a little bit better, and the Eagles stood pat. But, as Vic Fangio said again yesterday, he liked where he was. He didn't need anything else. And I think the Eagles certainly feel that way offensively. So I don't think it's as harsh as people expect. Now, Washington getting Marshawn Lattimore is that to me, that's a big move.
Yeah,
that's still a really good player, and I mean really good player.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about him highly, when the Eagles went up against the Saints this year, and I think he was on the injury report at the time, and he is a very good player, John. I thought that was a tremendous move as well.
Yeah, and he's only 28. Now, he has had a bunch of injury issues, so that works into it. He hasn't played a full season since 2021, so that's part of the reason why he's getting traded, because if he's healthy, there's no way they're trading him.
Right.
And he hasn't been able to stay healthy in the past number of years, but when he's out there, he's difficult to deal with, and that's a team, starting, after or in a short week. It's Dallas and Washington. That Washington game is shaping up as going to be something really relevant to this season for the Eagles. So I thought that was a really good move. Adam Peters keeps knocking it out of the park as a first-year GM.
Yeah,
I
he's doing a
thought,
really nice job.
yeah. So I thought that was meaningful. And Darius Smith made a lot of sense. He's older, but they lost Aiden Hutchinson. I think Detroit was the best team without him, and they're probably going to be the best team with him. But it made sense. Not as in all of that move. I think the Lattimore move is bigger. But from the Eagles' perspective, yeah, I didn't see a lot of places to add, to be honest. So even though, and I like how he likes to do things, and I know when other teams get big name players, the Eagles fans typically are going to want big name players, but where are you going to fit them? Where are you going to fit them?
Yeah, no, that's why I said I have no issue with the Eagles standing pat. I like who we have. I will say this about, and I'll ask you another question about the Marshawn Lattimore move, just because I think that it's got big implications for the Eagles. These are two teams, obviously, that you kind of hold yourself up to par against. Not so much the Commanders, but more so the Detroit Lions. And we'll see about the Commanders. But there's a Darius Smith move, John. When that happened, I'm thinking, okay, Zadarius is kind of old. He's having like a really a pretty good season right now. He has 5 sacks already this season, 8 assisted tackles and 23 combined. He's having a pretty good season for his age. He's still a good player. That could really help that Detroit defense after losing Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, I that's the one guy I mentioned as maybe
Yeah,
the
you
old
did.
player that was a fit for the Eagles. But again, then you have to make another move to try to get somebody out. And the Eagles, they took Albert Okwegman on as far as they possibly could. As soon as the trade deadline ends, they finally release him. So you have to make 2 moves, and that would really affect Bryce Huff. And we talked about how we signing him to a $51 million deal. And I get that, it's just more difficult than it looks. You can't just add somebody and say, all right, we're going to bench our $51 million edge rushers. So, I mean, I like the fit from a football sense, but sometimes business gets in the way, and it doesn't look like there were even involved because probably of that business sense. But, Detroit has been honing in on that for a while now, and they got it done. He's not Aiden Hutchinson, though. So if you look at it from that perspective.
Wow. Yeah.
But
You're not trading for a guy that's Aiden Hutchinson in
no.
the middle of the season. And then the Marshawn Lattimore move, John. Now, I don't remember. You'd have to enlighten me, but what age was Darius Slay when the Eagles acquired Slay? Was he around 28?
He was around 30.
Yeah, I kind of looked at I know they're not the same player, but I kind of looked at this as like that type of a move for the Commanders where they wanted to shore up their secondary with a talented, more veteran player. I loved the move from their perspective to go and get Marshawn Lattimore. I think he's a great player. Obviously, health is always a concern, but welcome to the NFL. It's a concern with everybody. Your thoughts overall, or your thoughts more specifically on that
Well,
move?
the one thing I would say in that particular comparison, and Slay is 33 now. He'll turn 34. He's a New Year's baby, New Year's Day, so
Right.
he'll turn 34. They got him in 2020, so he's on the cusp of 30, right around 30. But Slay has been tremendously durable until the past last year. He missed a few games with the knee injury. And this year, now he's out with a groin. He's been banged up with a knee. So the age is starting to catch up with him a little bit when it comes to the injuries. As I said, Marshawn hasn't played. He played 16 games in 2021. Since then, he played 7 in 2022 and 10 in 2023. And now he's played 7 this year. So, which is fine. Obviously, this year it's been relatively healthy, but a little bit more of an injury risk than Slay had been. He had been very durable, but same type of he's that type of corner. I mean, Slay's made 6 Pro Bowls, but he's going to be 34. Lattimore's made 4. Rookie of the year. You know, just like Slay, a ton of pass breakups, 18 as a rookie, 19 in that 2021 season. I mean, he's one of the best cover guys in the NFL. And a division rival got him. That ain't good.
What do you think of the fact that they used the third? Now, it wasn't the third the Eagles sent, but that did give them obviously another third round pick.
Gave him the ammunition. I tweeted that out. That's part of it. Even though it's not the same pick, when you have an extra third round pick, it makes you feel more comfortable moving a third round pick. So yeah, I mean, be nice if John Dotson can start picking it up. He made the big catch, the circus catch. But yeah, I mean, right now, if you're, saying who's having the better year, Howie Roseman or Adam Peters, in this snapshot on November 6th, I would say Adam Peters.
In year, I would say, yeah, but Howie Roseman did assemble a good team. It's starting to look like this team is really coming along. John, you put out the tweet yesterday, by the way, that went really big. I mean, I went back to find it. I'm like, holy shit, this thing's got a lot of interaction on it. But I think you said the Eagles were 3rd in overall defense and 6th in overall offense, or was it vice versa?
No. Third, you're right. 3rd in defense, 6th in offense.
So I mean, look, they're playing good football right now,
and those are traditional. By the way, everybody asks. You get the nerds, and those statistics are outdated. I'll be the first one, but that's what the NFL uses.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's what the NFL. So it's total yardage. Eagles are 6th offensive, 3rd defensive. And there's DVOA, and there's film grades from Pro Football Focus and blah, blah,
Well, what
blah.
do you make of the DVOA? Because you remember we had Aaron Schatz on in the summer. You remember what he said about the Eagles?
And I don't know where the Eagles are.
Wins for the Eagles, and the Cowboys will win the NFC East. That's what he said right here on Birds 365.
Well,
now, I'm not criticizing Aaron. I'm just saying.
Well, they're and predictive. But remember, Nick talked about it yesterday. They won 12 games, like 3 consecutive years or whatever, 13. I don't know what they.
Yeah,
Cowboys have been really good. And they've kind of fallen apart, but you're doing predictive models, and sometimes it doesn't work. Hey, speaking of politics, hey, predictive models don't work sometimes.
Yeah. Right, great point.
Especially if they're biased. But in the case of DVOA, it's not biased, but to use PFF, and I don't have DVOA. Speaking of Aaron, those guys were supposed to send me that link, but they never did. I have to circle back. They're 3rd in PFF defensively. Offensively, they're a little bit worse at number 10. But any measure you look at, they're playing well on both sides of the football right now. And they're a good team, but we're now, we know the expectations. They've only increased. They got to beat Washington and Detroit. Washington and Detroit seemingly got better at the trade deadline, and the Eagles didn't. It's fair to say that, but I wouldn't overreact to it, but it's fair to say it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Speaking of the
by the way, we got to do some business on air. Mike says he didn't get a link.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, that's going to be my fault. I'll take the blame for that one. I was lost in the weeds. Not a lot of sleep last night, Johnny Mac. Let me send Mike real quick. John, real quick, though. Speaking of the Eagles' upcoming opponent and the NFC East, Cowboys also made a move yesterday for Jonathan Mingo, I believe his name is, the wide receiver What'd you make of that move? I know it happened on the air yesterday, but now that you're a day removed from it, or at least maybe had a chance to review it, are they still trying to compete this year? Like I didn't really
No,
know what to make of that move
no,
with the
that's a
tackle and the
really
IR and stuff.
that's a really young player. 23, drafted in 2023, second round pick, didn't work out in Carolina, and the Cowboys probably liked him in the draft and want him to be, you're taking a shot on him being a foundational piece, like Vic would say, that he's going to be there. You're getting him on his rookie deal. And if it clicks, it's a good deal. But to me, that's nowhere near an indication of, oh, we got to get a meaningful receiver to compete. I mean, Carolina's a bad team, but he's caught 12 passes this year, barely involved. But he's got some talent, obviously. When you're the 39th pick in the draft, he was, you know, you generally have some physical gifts, and he's big and he's 220, 4'4", 6 guy. So they're just taking a shot on a raw talent, and hopefully they can develop him.
Yeah, we'll see what they're able to do with that. We'll have Mike Gill coming up in a little bit, as you just heard Johnny Mack say. He needs the link. I got him the link. We'll have Mike Gill coming up, and then in hour number 2, we'll have Brandon Lee Gouton, BLG, from Bleeding Green Nation. Looking forward to talking to both of those guys today. John, has the Eagles defense? I think it's safe to say they've probably exceeded everybody's expectations to
Oh my
this point.
God.
Maybe not. I mean, yeah.
Well, if anybody had bigger expectations than
Yeah,
this,
well, that's why I didn't want to speak for you, which is why I hedged the bet. But glad to hear you're on the same page. You think they can keep up this pace? They're playing really
no,
good
I
football.
don't.
Okay.
I don't. But can they be good? Yeah. Uh, but this pace, no. I mean, they've been part of it's opponents. They've been playing bad opponents, and they've taken advantage of it. But that's common sense. That
Yeah.
should be baked in for everybody. You play better against poorer opponents, and you're going to have a tougher time against better opponents. It's what, if you go back to 2022, I never understood that. People can't understand that. Yeah. The Chiefs are tougher than Cincinnati, or, Baltimore, and certainly everybody's tougher than the Giants, maybe with the exception of the Panthers. And the Browns aren't having a good season, but they've taken advantage of all of this, and that's just what you're supposed to do. That's a positive thing. But yeah, to expect them to play the rest of the season like they played these last 4 games, yeah, that's probably a little bit unrealistic, I would say. Well, you have another easier route, I would say, than expected, with Cooper Rush expected to start for the Cowboys. And Mike's grabbing some coffee, and then he'll be pop in. But they're doing what they're supposed to do. There's nothing wrong with that. You should
Yeah.
be
No,
lauded for that, because there's so many teams that play down to the competition, don't bring their A game, and the Eagles have been stifling. And one of the disappointing things of the nonsense of how much we discussed decisions that didn't succeed. um, yeah, we didn't talk about the players, and specifically when you talk about the players, for the second straight week, Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean, both of them, were off the charts. Off the charts. I mean, did anybody see that coming? For all the talk, and the 2 best players, film grade PFF wise, for the second straight week for the Philadelphia Eagles, Zach Bond and Kobe Dean. 2 weeks in a row. And this is a team that has struggled at linebacker for many years. And when they do have good linebacker play, it tends to be linebacker play that.
I mean,
For
John, I'll
whatever
bring it
reason,
back to the offseason. We thought these linebackers could be a bottom 5,
I
bottom
think
3
everybody
unit.
did.
No, I'm
Everybody had
I'm
that.
not saying we were wrong, but that was the expectation, and they are so far above that. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, 2 best players. Everybody thinks Saquon had the best game in the history of the world. 2 best players by far, Zach Ball and Nakobe Dean. By far, from play to play. Again, that consistency from play to play to play. Just, they've been unbelievable. And then you have Jalen Carter, who's playing at a high level. Cooper DeJean has been unbelievable.
Yeah, he has.
Quinyon Mitchell has been just rock solid all year. As expected, Isaiah Rodgers held up against Jacksonville, which was a positive. Reed Blankenship played well. It was one of, he had been in a little bit of a slump. I would say the only guy not playing up to expectations or not exceeding expectations on that defense would be CJ. CJ Gardner Johnson. A
Yeah.
lot of people will say Jordan Davis, but for the reasons we've discussed ad nauseum, I'm not necessarily on that same page. But a lot of people will say him and Bryce Huff, I should say. Bryce Huff as well. But for the most part, that defense it's been wow. You got to give Vic a ton of credit.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
that's his expertise, linebackers. So maybe we didn't give enough credit to him on that because he can look at it. And that was, Vic always says something interesting every week to me. And his most interesting thing this week was he was asked about moving Zach Ball into off-ball linebacker. And if he, worried about what other people thought of him because they didn't look at him as an off-ball linebacker. And Vic's like so secure. And he's like, no, I don't give a crap what anybody else thinks. That and he got a little dig in. A lot of coaches don't have that kind of self-confidence. And they'll look around and say, what am I missing? And they don't have the confidence in themselves to do those types of things. So yeah, you can't say enough good things about that defense.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's get to our first commercial break. Before I do that, though, Johnny Mac, check this out. This is Paul Blome. This is who won the Saquon Barkley jersey giveaway yesterday. He's over in the UK, so I got to ship the jersey out to the UK. He drops a big old super chat. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Congrats on winning the jersey, and thank you for your support. John, he's been a member on JAKIB for 26 months. So this is no new member looking to capitalize on my giveaways. He has been supporting for a while. So big thanks to you, Paul. Congrats on winning the jersey. He says, well chuffed with the Saquon jersey. Thank you. Extending Zach Baum would be better than any deadline move. They need cap space. A lot of extensions upcoming. Go Birds. What do you think, Johnny Mac? Baum extension incoming?
Yeah, I think it's incoming at some point. But they don't need cap space.
They're not going to TJ Edwards this though, John, are they? Don't tell me that.
No, I don't think they are.
I hope not.
But I think part of that is Zach's part as well. Like, I think there's going to be some loyalty from Zach as well that maybe he takes a little bit undervalue because, this is the team that gave him the chance. And if he goes to another team, he might be in the same crappy situation. That doesn't see him the same way that Vic sees him. So I think you have that in your back pocket as well.
Yeah, good stuff, Paul. Thank you, man, and appreciate the support of the channel, and congrats on the jersey. I'll email you the updates with that today. The Kelly Green coming your way, my friend. Appreciate it. Say Quads checks in. The offense and defense are progressing how we all hope. This is going to piss J-Mac off. J-Mac, have you seen or heard enough around the water cooler to believe Nick's situational decisions will improve? We are lucky that was the Jaguars.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of water cooler talk that people just don't understand why Eagles fans can't understand how important being aggressive has been to the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the water cooler talk from people inside the building. They are But they are flummoxed by the reaction. Flummoxed.
Let's get to our commercial break. We'll get to Mike Gill. Looking forward to talking to Mike Gill coming up next here on Birds 365. Appreciate everybody being here. We'll be right back in 3 minutes with Mike Gill on the other side.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.